Most people building a cleaning business in 2026 are still running it the same way people ran it 5 years ago. A VA will be on WhatsApp, booking software will send the email confirmations, and the owner is in the middle of pretty much every single decision that the VA does, not knowing how to handle. That model for sure works. I know because I ran it a long time ago, but it is not the ceiling of what is possible anymore. And the gap between what most operators are doing and what is actually available in terms of AI and automation is significant. And in this video, I'm going to show you some examples of exactly what I use to run my cleaning business, specific tools, workflows, and where AI is starting to replace things that used to require a human. And at the end, I want to show you where I think this is heading because I'm actively building something right now that I think is going to change this model entirely. So let's get into it. Now, before I show you the tools, I want to make sure you understand the problem they are solving, because I think a lot of people here automate your business and picture some sort of set it and forget it passive income setup that does not actually exist. The operational reality of a cleaning business at scale is that there are a lot of repetitive, time-sensitive tasks that happen every single day, right? A client can call to reschedule. A cleaner might call out, not be able to make it to a job, and you need to find a replacement in the next 2 hours. A payment might fail from a customer and someone needs to follow up. A new lead might come in from Facebook, needs to go into your CRM before it goes cold. A Google review might come in and needs a response. None of these tasks require intelligence, but they do require consistency, speed, and the right information at the right time. That is exactly what automation and AI are good at. And that is exactly where I have focused the last few months building in this business. So the goal is not to remove every human piece of the business, right? I still have a VA team that runs the operation. The goal is to give them a system where the routine task gets handled automatically, so the time and energy they bring back into the business goes into things that actually require human judgment, not into confirming something or logging data. Now, let me walk you through what is actually running my business, because right now I think the tools themselves are less important than understanding how they connect. So my foundation for booking management software is Booking Koala. That is my booking software. It handles the client-facing side, so scheduling, booking confirmations, payment processing, and the cleaner-facing side, which includes an app that has scheduling availability, their own management, assignments, notifications, checking in, checking out of every single booking. So every booking that goes through Booking Koala, every cleaner is going to get their job listed on their schedule, and every payment is going to process through that. Layered on top of that is my CRM. I use Go High Level. Every new lead from every lead source, whether it's Facebook, Thumbtack, LSA, Bark, anything else, gets pulled into Go High Level through what I have on the back end called Zapier. Now, Go High Level is also where my back end hiring pipeline lives. So every new cleaner applicant is going to go through my process, being tracked through the pipeline, all the way from application to background check to onboarding, and all that's being tracked. Zapier is still the connective tissue between all of that, right? It makes the different tools talk to each other without having to manually take information from one place and put it to another place. So I will show you some more specific automations in a second. And Slack is where my team actually operates, right? I've built a channel structure inside Slack that mirrors the operational categories of what's happening in the business, right? So morning management, appointment issues, scheduling, payment follow-ups, cancellations, reviews, hiring, all that stuff. Each channel has a specific purpose, and most of them feed automatically by Zapier. So when something happens, right, like in Booking Koala or Go High Level, it shows up right in the Slack channel for my VA to take action without having to look for it. Okay, this is where most people who are trying to automate their business stop too early. They set up their booking software, whatever they're using, they got a CRM, whatever they're using, and then they leave all these connections between those two systems to manual processes that their VA has to do by hand. These automations I've built through Zapier are what I would say eliminate a lot of the manual work that's going on between all of these different sources. And I can show you what I mean by that even through what I'm showing on my screen here. So this is what I would just tell you is a lead aggregator, right? So it's aggregating all of the lead sources that I have coming in from my entire business. So all the different channels, right? How people can find us. It's basically centralizing and sending all that information into Go High Level. So I know whenever a new lead comes in through any of these channels, it's basically getting organized and attributed properly. Because if you don't have good data attribution, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know when they arrived, you can't actually follow up with them in a timely fashion. All those things when running a business at scale matter a ton. If you think about it, right? If you had only 5 leads, like for sure, you can do it on pen and paper, honestly. You could probably just do it on an Excel sheet. But as you start to have tens, hundreds of leads coming in a month, you need to have things that are running on autopilot. That way, things are getting done very quickly. So this is Zapier. This is an example of like having everything organized so you don't have any question marks on where everything's being tracked. Okay, so here's another example in Zapier of how to actually do this, right? You've got a new booking automation, right? We have a trigger point. So that basically means whenever there's a new booking in Booking Koala, what happens from that point? How do we update the system, okay? What we do is we take all the information from the booking, we update our company spreadsheet. So it's just basically a line item of all the information in here. Basically, we're housing the data on a sheet just as backup, as well as it's routing to other things on my dashboard. And then we split it into two different paths. So I like to split it into a recurring booking or a one-time booking. So you can basically take the information from here and then basically divide it into whether it was a one-time or a recurring. From there, we're updating Go High Level, and then we're sending a message in Slack. So what does this do? It basically is giving us a database. So we're going to just database the information. Then we're going to put it into our CRM, right? So we're having all this information now being in the CRM, which different automations can work now for a one-time booking or recurring booking. And then we're notifying the team in Slack. So this is where I come in, right? So I don't see any of these things happening in between. I just see, hey, we got a new booking in Slack. Right, so my team is going to be doing all the booking work on the phone with the client, or the client might book direct. And then all these things that are working on the background are basically already set up and Go High Level, okay? So that is an example of how you just structure new bookings, have it automated, have it scalable, and then have it integrated within all the other touch points of your company. We're going to do one more automation as well, just to walk you through it. So that was the booking form system update side. The next one is going to be just for like leads, right? So when a new lead comes in, how do we actually respond? How do we actually get updated quickly so we can make sure that our speed to lead is on point? So this is an example of what we would just have as like our speed to lead notification type of update. So you're going to have like your Facebook lead that comes in here. So that's going to be, hey, I'm running an ad campaign. When someone fills out the form, this starts. Okay. So a new lead comes in, it triggers. I actually send the client a message with our phone. So basically, like if you looked at this, you would see it's basically sending them a message based on what they're saying. It will also send us an admin notification to call ASAP, and then it'll send us a Slack notification, new lead came in. Okay, so we're getting hit on two different places. We're also sending an outbound message. This is an example of how to actually set up your system properly so you can actually be as responsive as possible when a new lead comes in. Now, the second layer of AI usage in my business is not about the automations that I'm talking about in the traditional sense that we just went over. It's about using large language models, specifically Claude or ChatGPT, to do knowledge work that used to take hours to build. One of the more valuable use cases I've found is SOP creation. So every time I build a new process in the business, whether it's a cleaner onboarding workflow, a client cancellation script, a VA morning checklist, right? Any of those things, I use Claude to actually draft the first version. I give it context. I give it the specific situation it's designed for, the tone I want, and it produces a draft in minutes or even seconds. Then I can just review and refine it. I also have it knowledge basing my entire company's information in all the SOPs I've created to date. So it has a ton of context into what my company is actually doing, what it's trying to doing. That way it doesn't give you very generic information. So this is an example of just having a ton of SOPs built for my company's specific use case. Now, what this means in practice is that my team basically has a documented protocol for almost every situation they're going to encounter, right? Instead of escalating to me on every time something happens outside the normal routine, they have a written process to follow first, right? Then an escalation can occur to me, and that dramatically reduces the amount of communication an organization needs to have. Whenever I'm thinking about scaling, that typically means more overhead. More overhead typically means more communication across all parties. And that is what slows a team down, right? So you need to reduce escalations on your part as the solo decision maker as much as possible. And to me, that's one of the bigger operational improvements that I've made because of AI, right? It's the reason I'm able to now document at a speed I've never been able to before. And another use case just within like the written language, because obviously large language models right now, that's probably the easiest way to apply, is just having templated cleaner and client communications, right? So every communication scenario, a cleaner running late, a client complaint, payment failure follow-up, review requests, all of those things now can just be written so a VA can send with minor personalization, right? They don't have to write everything from scratch. They don't have to keep it in a database. You can just use Claude to write the templates. It's faster, right? It's usually more polished. There's not really going to be any typos. And now the communication to clients is very consistent, right? Now, to take AI a step further, you can also use this in a sales setting, right? So you can review your VA's calls, not by actually having to listen to the whole recording yourself now, but by having the transcript or having the MP3 file and putting it into something like this with the prompt that's engineered for the outcome that you're wanting. grading the call, and then finding the 1 or 2 areas of improvement for your team or even yourself that you want to improve on your future calls to make sure that you're improving at sales, because obviously sales is everything in the business. You always want to be improving, right? So this is another business use case example outside of just the data aggregation and the written language things, right? Now we're starting to understand the business, have context, and then use it to amplify specific business operations like sales. Now, again, everything that I have shown you to this point is what is available right now with the tools that exist and that any cleaning business owner can realistically set up. But I want to tell you where I think this is going, as well as show you kind of a concept here so you guys can understand what I'm talking about, because I'm in the middle of building it. One of the bigger remaining friction points in the operational side of this business is what I would call an intelligent workflow problem, right? So Zapier is great at moving information between systems based on simple triggers, as I've shown you. If this happens, then do that, right? But the situations that still require a human right now are the ones where a decision needs to be made, not a notification being sent, right? A very clear example of this would be a reschedule. Right now, when a client calls in and says they need to reschedule their cleaning, a couple different things need to happen. Number one, they need to check the cleaner's availability, right? They got to look up at the calendar. They got to propose a new time to the client. They need to confirm with the new cleaner or the existing cleaner. Then they update the booking and booking koala, right? That's a 5 to 10 step process, depending on what's happening, that could cost your business 10 to 15 minutes of human time, right? And it happens every single time. There's not really a way around it. What I'm building is a software that's basically going to handle that entire sequence through an AI agent, not a human. So the client's going to message in similar to something like this, right? They're going to message. We're going to get the message. Once that happens, the AI is going to actually reach out to all the cleaners to check availability, right? Then it proposes either the same time with a new cleaner or a new cleaner with a new time to the client. It's confirmed from both sides. It updates it then in the booking software and then notifies everyone of the confirmation, right? So this whole thing will solve it without a human touching it. Right. So where we're going is, if you have everything integrated, if you have the knowledge base from the AI, if you have the communication structure all synced together, as you can see, I'm almost stacking everything I just talked about in this video now into an integrated solution, right? So that starts to solve everything in a much quicker and efficient manner and consistently. So again, this is not science fiction. This is where we're heading, and that technology to build is starting to become a real thing. So what doesn't exist is what I'm talking about right now, right? Having a vertically integrated solution specifically for the cleaning business model, all the things that happen, all of the operational complexities that can occur throughout a day, and the considerations of how to handle it, right? So that's what I'm building. And when it's done, I think it'll change the leverage equation for any operator in this model specifically. The goal in this is you can run this business doing $30,000 plus, $40,000 plus a month with either a fraction of your own personal time or a fraction of the time that it actually requires to run it, because all of the routine tasks and decisions now can even be offloaded to AI to complete, leaving everything human, right? A conversation with the cleaner about how things are going, a conversation with the client, right? The high touch things that you want, you obviously leave those to the humans, but literally everything else, right? All of the button clicking that goes on in an organization, we are removing that and getting it as close to 1 click as possible, or 0 clicks. So hopefully that excites you guys in terms of the type of leverage you're gonna have as this space evolves in the next 3 to 5 years. I wanna be direct about what this means for anyone watching this who is either building a cleaning business right now or potentially thinking of starting one. To me, the operators who are learning to build AI into their systems today are building a structural advantage that is going to be very hard to close in the next 2 to 3 years, not because AI is some secret or because the technology is inaccessible. It's not, but because there's a real operation learning curve to integrating these tools into running a business. And the people who are going through that learning curve now are going to be the ones who can absorb AI enabled tools the fastest when they become more powerful and more available. So the people who end up saying, I'm going to wait on something like that, and I'm going to figure out this automation piece once the business is more stable, they're going to be the ones playing catch up to the operators who already have 2 or 3 years of data on what works, what broke, how to build a system that actually holds together at scale. So I'm not saying you have to build everything I've shown you in month 1. You definitely don't. A lot of our success stories, honestly, have not done everything that I've even shown you to this point, are still successful. What I am telling you to do is start to plan this ahead, start to understand that there's more that goes on behind the scenes as you look to scaling your company. The Zapier automations are a month 2, 3 priority, right? Once the core business is running, having good documentation, leveraging the AI tools available is something you can literally start from day 0. Having an AI officer manager component is something that I'm honestly building for you, so you don't have to. But the mindset of treating this as a technology enabled operation from the beginning, rather than a manual traditional business you can automate later, is something I think everybody in this space in 2026 needs to have or needs to start implementing. The cleaning business business at its core is extremely simple. You have clients who want their homes clean, and you have cleaners who clean them. Everything else in this video is about building a layer between those two things in a way that scales without requiring you to be personally involved in every transaction or every decision. The tools I've shown you today, Booking, Koala, Go High Level, Zapier, Slack, Claude, ChatGPT for the knowledge work, are not the point. The point is the principle behind them, which is that every manual repetitive task in this business is a candidate for automation. You need to be thinking that way. And every hour your VA spends on something that could have been systematized or handled in a limited amount of time, and they're not spending on something mission critical in your company, is something you need to build out for them. So I'm actively building this out, the next version of it. I'm also continually building on this day after day, month after month, as things start to get more sophisticated and more applicable for your business. If you want to be among the first to know when that is ready, link is in the description, has everything you need. If you have questions about any part of what I covered today, or you're just trying to figure out where to start your own automation stack, drop them in the comments. I will read every one, and I will use the best questions in the future videos, and I will see you on the next one.